Realizing that I'm autistic has been a very long journey, and I have gone through many diagnoses in the process. So today I thought I would walk you through my diagnosis journey and what I have been through on the way to realizing that I'm autistic. Hi, my name is Megan, and welcome to Neurodivergent Magic, the YouTube channel for accessible and relatable neurodivergent content. So like many of you watching, my mental health struggles really started in college. The first thing that I really noticed was going on with me was depression. That felt really scary to me at the time to admit, and so I resisted it for a long time. But after a while, it became pretty undeniable. And after one of my close friends opened up to me about how she had started going to therapy, I realized that that's what I needed to. I was so afraid that I was faking to fit in with her. I was so afraid that she deserved therapy in a way that I didn't. There are so many fears that I had back then. And so if you're at the beginning of your diagnosis journey, the beginning of your mental health journey, I just want you to know all of those fears make sense. And it is okay to be battling with them, and it doesn't make your struggle any less real. And I sincerely hope that this video helps you recognize that it's possible to move through those fears, because those are not things that I worry about all that often anymore, which is such a blessing. So I decided to go to the counseling center at my university. And while I was looking up information about the counseling center, I found a couple of screener tools that they had available online. One of the screeners was for depression, and I was pretty convinced I was depressed, so I took it. And the results of that screener changed my life for the next 5 years. Because according to that screener, there was a possibility that I might have bipolar disorder. When I got that result, I wasn't that shocked because I noticed the way I was answering the questions in the screener, and they were asking about unusual bursts of energy and all of these signs that weren't related to depression, clearly. And I recognized as I answered the questions, wow, yeah, I do actually experience that. So, am I bipolar? Enter the deep dive, the research rabbit hole. To this day, I probably know more about bipolar disorder than most professionals. And within a few short days, I became completely convinced that I had bipolar disorder type 2. Now, type 2 bipolar disorder basically means that you experience the extreme lows of depression, but instead of experiencing the extreme highs of full-on mania, you experience something called hypomania, which is when you experience these high energy levels and high mood levels that are outside of the norm for sure, but are not quite as destructive and long-lasting as full-blown mania. I brought my concerns about bipolar disorder to a counselor at my university, and she told me, and I quote, "You certainly paint a bipolar picture." And that was all the confirmation I needed. So for the next 5 years, I had a diagnosis of bipolar disorder type 2, but it never felt right. I never stopped doubting my bipolar disorder. I never felt extreme enough. I never felt that I quite fit the diagnostic criteria. I constantly questioned it, but whenever someone started to agree with me, I panicked because in my head, it was a dichotomy. It was black and white. Either I had bipolar disorder and something was wrong with me, and that gave me permission to be as sick as I truly felt, or nothing was wrong at all and I was exaggerating and I was just being a huge baby and nothing was wrong with me. And I couldn't handle the possibility that I was just exaggerating, that everyone went through life this way and they just handled it better than me. I could not handle that possibility, so I clung on to the bipolar diagnosis long after I knew in my heart of hearts that it was incorrect. So, how did I finally let go of the bipolar disorder? I met a trauma-informed therapist. Now, this therapist turned out to be a total disaster, and we left on very bad terms with each other. But I will forever be grateful for her because she was the person who made me realize that my mood swings were not random. My mood swings were triggers. She was the person who made me realize that my experiences counted as trauma. And because I had a new label for what was going on with me, I was able to let go of the old label that I knew wasn't correct. I finally let go of the bipolar and decided that trauma was the main thing that was causing me issues in my life. Now, this therapist never actually diagnosed me with a trauma-based disorder or a personality disorder, which are often caused by trauma. And this is one of the reasons things ended poorly between us, because she refused to diagnose me with what she clearly thought that I had, which was borderline personality disorder. To this day, I am not sure if I have borderline or not. I like to tell people that I have some borderline traits, but I'm not sure I fit the full-blown diagnostic criteria, and I'm pretty comfortable with that nowadays. But for a while there, I was very obsessed and very certain that, again, I either had the disorder or nothing was wrong. Once I left this therapist, I entered a sort of exploration stage where I truly allowed myself to consider any possibility. What disorder could potentially explain what was going on with me? Like I said, I considered borderline personality disorder, but I also considered avoidant personality disorder. I researched complex PTSD, ADHD, generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, and so much more. And my new therapist was convinced that the correct diagnoses for me were major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. So I lived with that for a little while. I'll admit that it never really felt right to me. It never felt like it fully explained what was going on. I always felt like there was more to it than anxiety and depression. Not that anxiety and depression aren't very serious illnesses and should be treated as such. It just didn't feel like it captured the whole picture of what was going on with me. And then I found out about autism. Like most people, I had a very stereotypical view of autism. When I thought of autism, I thought of non-speaking little boys. But thankfully, TikTok and a ton of my own personal research has shown me that autism is so much more than that. But when I brought the idea of autism to my therapist and my psychiatrist, they both dismissed me in different ways. The psychiatrist was cruel and ignorant, and my therapist was trying to let me down very gently. She just didn't see that in me. And I was crushed. I believed them for a little while, and that's why there is a video on this channel called I'm Not Autistic. But with some time and some more research, I have found that I truly am autistic. It explains so much of what I related to in all those previous disorders that I was researching. And I'm happy to report that although my new therapist says she does not specialize in autism and therefore does not feel comfortable professionally diagnosing me, she does say that I very clearly meet the criteria. So what's the point of this story? Honestly, I just hope that hearing my diagnosis journey makes you feel less alone, because diagnosis is messy. I wish it was an exact science. I wish there was just a blood test they could do or a brain scan they could run and just tell us what was going on. But mental health diagnoses are clusters of symptoms grouped into boxes, and a lot of those boxes overlap, and that makes this so tricky. I just hope that now you understand that it's not just you going through this, and you're not crazy. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.